All right, hello everyone, welcome. I'm sitting down here with Kent Wilson, who's going to be the lecturer for our Keeping Traders on Track program. So, welcome, Kent. Thanks for coming along.
I appreciate that, Chris. Really glad to be involved with this particular program.
Yeah,
I think there's some
absolutely.
great things happening.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on board, mate. I think, yeah, this is a pretty critical program, I believe, in the industry. We really need to get to, a lower rate of attrition, I think, for these apprentices. So, what we'll do, I'm just going to go through a series of questions. We'll get a little bit of background on yourself, and we'll sort of dive into, I guess, what these four training modules will be able to provide for our industry. So I'll just start off, mate. If you could just tell us a bit about your background and how that actually fits into the training module.
Righto. Believe it or not, I started off as an electrician. So I did an apprenticeship many years ago. What I can still say is I still have my workers registration 35 years later. I've kept it up. Why? Because in a sense, that's helped to define who I am. I've ran an electrical contracting business for a number of years. I went into electrical wholesaling. And then from that, I've always been somebody who's been a lifelong learner. So I studied, I completed an associate diploma at Regency TAFE, topped that up, did an engineering degree, went on and studied an accountancy degree and an MBA. And these days I teach at university. And I've done that for about 20 years. And currently I'm teaching part-time for the University of South Australia in a small business program for them.
Yeah, that's brilliant, man. I think you probably covered the next question of mine as to what qualifications and skills you have that set yourself apart. But yeah, it's probably quite self-evident that you've gone through both the on the tools and then obviously the academic part of it and then the business operations. So the trifecta there, I believe. And I guess with that in mind as well, I was just seeing what benefit is it do you believe that the attendees will get from these training courses?
I think there's a couple of benefits that I'd say straight away. One of the things that I'm going to say, without wanting to pump my tyres, I appreciate what it's like to run a trades business. I ran it for 5 years. I was quite successful at it. I got to a point where I needed to expand, and I had to make a decision: was I going to employ additional people, or what was I going to do? And it just so happened I was a bit of a crossroads at life. I had a couple of young boys at that stage, and I decided on a different trajectory. If I'd have stayed, then I would have had to have gone through the employment path. I've experienced that. I've worked for wholesalers. I've also, in an academic environment, I've employed people as well. So I understand the challenges involved with employing people on a number of different fronts. One of the things that I'll also identify, and I think this is really important, from what I'm hearing, that there is a significant attrition rate with regards to apprentices. And I fully understand that, because when I was going through my apprenticeship, at a couple of points in time, I almost tossed the towel in. And the reason I did that was I looked at first-year money, second-year money, and there were individuals who were working in the mines. I came from Queensland, and they were earning a bucket load of cash, and they seemed to be having it very, very straightforward. I tell you what kept me going. What actually kept me going was that I saw a vision for the future, and I saw, bang, if I'm a tradesperson, then there is so many opportunities for me. I can run my own business. I can upskill. I can do just a whole host of things, whereas to walk away was to walk away with nothing. So to me, I think the real benefit is it's about trying to say to these guys, hey, stick at it. Stick at it. If you continue through with the apprenticeship, then there's some enormous opportunities that present. I was also just speaking, Chris, can I just share the story that I said to you before when I was an apprentice?
Oh, yeah,
so when I was an apprentice, I was very fortunate. I did work for a larger company. And from a second-year apprentice position, I had a company vehicle. And I appreciate that not every employer is going to be able to provide that. But it's really getting down to where I'm thinking is if you can just provide some little perks for the actual employees, often that can be sort of the catalyst that brings things together and people say, hey, I'm happy with that. So certainly I think we'll be addressing some HR matters. But I think we need to take a step back. And that step back is to understand what the numbers actually look like. Now, I've got no doubts every person who's listening to this can throw up a shed, or they can throw up a construction, they can use Milwaukee tools, but can you actually nail a cash flow statement? And if there's one thing that is going to determine your success or otherwise in construction, and indeed in business in general, it's all coming down to, do the numbers stack up? So we're going to spend a bit of time just having a look at the cash flow situation, because here's the bottom line. If you can solve your cash flow problems, then what that actually does is that alleviates a huge weight off your shoulders. It also means that you can focus on what's the most important thing. And it probably means that the conversation that you're having with your employees on the work site, you're not being burdened down by the bank's chasing you and this person's chasing you. And you'll suddenly find yourself, hey, if you know where your money is, that all of that pressure dissipates straight away. So we're going to solve that problem, because if you can solve that problem, I think you can solve many of the other problems that flow on from that. Yeah. Money does make the world go round, and not that I'm a millionaire, but the bottom line is, if you can be in a comfortable position, then that certainly makes life just a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and I can definitely see how that, from an apprentice perspective as well, it's pretty enticing to work with an operator that actually has, efficiencies around the business. From an employer perspective, which is, a large attraction of these training courses, and I think a lot of value will be to direct and dental employers in particular. From a career perspective and professional development perspective, where is it that you think that they'll see the most value for them as an individual?
I just want to pick up, if I can, first and foremost, if you want to run a successful business, there's what we call the 3 Ps. It's people, it's your processes, and that leads to your profit. So you've got to get your people part right, but you've also got to have the processes. And I think, in a sense, what this training is designed to do is to perhaps provide some really good processes. So if you get the people, you get the processes, then inevitably the profit is going to flow as a result. So I really think that that's going to be where I see some enormous value. I see some great value for employers, no matter what size you happen to be, because what we'll be talking about are the sorts of issues that if you've got 2 apprentices, or if you've got 25 apprentices and you're a very large construction company, here's what happens in construction. And in fact, in most businesses, it all comes down to cash flow. We've seen large construction companies have challenges, have issues, and there's that common denominator that comes into play there. So I really do think training, education, and the good thing about this that I'm going to say, Chris, it's going to be focused. Too often, one of the things that people say to me about training is they go along to something that's just so generalist. This is something that is going to be actually focused for those in the construction industry, and in particular those in the building industry. So it's going to have a real pointy end sort of focus. So we're going to be talking about real world issues that impact on your particular industry.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important, actually. We've got a lot of unique industry challenges within construction, when it comes to the way, we even see through our RISE program as well, a lot of challenges are quite common in terms of, the scheduling, the managing the workloads, the skill shortage, the labour shortage, obviously the material shortage. So they're pretty unique in that regard. And I think that focus is definitely needed. So I appreciate that that's going to be delivered. And I suppose that feeds into the sort of the remaining questions as well, being, what is it? Well, for starters, are there any prerequisites that any attendee needs to bring to these courses?
The only thing you need to bring is an attitude and a willingness to learn. If you bring that, I can absolutely guarantee you're going to have a great time. Absolutely. You'll walk away with ready to implement ideas, initiatives that you can say, bang, I can hit that ground running. Monday is just going to look so great to you, because they're going to have some ideas that you can say, no matter what the size of the business is, I can do that. I could actually do that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I suppose, leading into the final question with that as well, what do you believe that anyone can do to maximise what they get out of this course?
Do you know what? That's very similar to that last question that you've actually said there. How you can maximise is you can come along, you can network, but most importantly, be prepared to share some ideas. Let's workshop, because the common problems, the common issues, or the issues that you're facing, guess what? It doesn't matter where we happen to be. And I might just also say, my understanding is we're travelling to the regional parts.
We are.
As far as that goes. So if I can just sort of sidestep into that, very delighted to be able to going right throughout the state. My background, I grew up in regional Queensland, but I've lived in regional South Australia. I was up in God's own country, Renmark, and I say God's own country. Yes, I think I've just said it. I've lived in Whyalla. I've travelled down to Mount Gambier, been to Port Lincoln quite often, regularly, mid-north as well. So I can appreciate what it's like to be a business owner and somebody who's having to work in a regional context, as well as somebody who might be in a more suburban type context as well.
Very good point. We actually recently went out to Port Lincoln, met with some MBA members, and I think the need out there as well, that they demonstrate for wanting training courses will definitely get out there and give some regional love, which is fantastic. So we're looking to roll this out early next year, and we'll hopefully look to, through yourself, finalise some modules as well by the end of the year. So really looking forward to that. Thank you very much for coming into that, Ken, and we'll be on the track soon.
Oh, absolutely. As the late Big Kev used to say, I'm excited.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.